The fall looked harmless, a simple stumble in his Manhattan recording studio in late September. But for Ace Frehley, the legendary Spaceman of KISS, that one moment would trigger a cascade of events that nobody saw coming. A brain bleed, life support, a ventilator. And on October 16th, 2025, the impossible became reality when his family made the decision to let him go. The man who survived electrocution, 10 car accidents, and decades of addiction was taken down by something so ordinary, so unexpected, that it still doesn't feel real. The accident happened in September 2025 when Ace was working in his studio, doing what he loved most. He hit his head during the fall, and while it seemed minor at first, doctors discovered an intracranial hemorrhage lurking beneath the surface. The initial statement to fans claimed he was fine, just needing rest, and unable to travel on doctor's orders. On September the 26th, he canceled his performance at the Antelope Valley Fair in California, citing the fall. But behind closed doors, the situation was far more dire than anyone knew. Ace had been hospitalized immediately, and the bleeding in his brain wasn't stopping. By early October, the truth started emerging in fragments. On October 6th, his team announced the cancellation of all remaining 2025 tour dates due to ongoing medical issues. The vague language sparked concern among fans, but nobody expected what came next. Ace was placed on a ventilator with no signs of improvement. Multiple weeks passed with his brain showing no response to treatment. Then, TMZ broke the devastating news on October 15th. The family was considering turning off the ventilator. Less than 24 hours later, surrounded by his loved ones in a Morristown, New Jersey hospital, Ace Frehley took his last breath at age 74. The spaceman had finally returned home. But this wasn't the first time Ace had danced with death. In fact, his entire life read like a series of near misses that should have killed him decades earlier. Starting at age 13, he dove headfirst into alcohol, and by the time KISS hit the big stage in the 1970s, his addiction had grown into a monster. The band's 1978 TV movie KISS Meets the Phantom of the Park captured Ace at one of his lowest points, loaded on cocaine and booze throughout filming. His first departure from KISS in 1982 came partly because the substances had taken over. One girlfriend's memoir later revealed how Ace had persuaded her into drug addiction alongside him, painting a picture of a man spiraling out of control. The most terrifying moment came when Simmons found him unconscious in a bathtub after Ace had taken horse tranquilizers. Gene literally saved his life that night, pulling him from the water before he drowned. For years, this pattern continued, a cycle of destruction that seemed unstoppable. But then came 2006, and everything shifted. It started with one final bender in Las Vegas with Slash and Eddie Trunk. Ace later admitted he ended up with 5 girls in his room and kept partying for another month straight. But when he looked in the mirror one morning, something clicked. He looked terrible, felt worse. Then his daughter Monique called with 4 simple words that cut through the haze. "Dad, it's time to stop." That night, Ace called his sponsor and never touched alcohol again. For the next 18 years, right up until his death, he stayed completely sober. His daughter had accomplished what nobody else could, reaching him in a way that bandmates, friends, and lovers never managed. She became his motivation, his reason to finally choose life. Yet even in sobriety, the demons from his past continued haunting him through the brutal feud with his former bandmates. In 2019, Simmons publicly declared that Ace couldn't be trusted to play a full night's show. Ace responded with nuclear force on Facebook, accusing Gene of gurping his wife, Jeanette, at the Capitol Records building and calling him an ace-hole and SX addict, facing multiple lawsuits. The gloves were completely off. Then in 2023, Paul Stanley appeared on Howard Stern and called the original KISS lineup Piss instead of KISS. When Ace demanded an apology, Paul called him and said, "Fuck you," instead. Ace fired back by threatening to release a 120-page document of dirt he kept in a safety deposit box, claiming he had enough ammunition to destroy their reputations forever. Paul had also previously accused Ace of anti-Semitic behavior and collecting Nazi memorabilia, adding another layer of ugliness to their decades-long war. Right up until Ace's final days, the bitterness between them never truly healed. The irony cuts deep when you consider how many times Ace actually should have died. December 12th, 1976, in Lakeland, Florida. He was electrocuted on stage with 220 volts of electricity. A grounding issue had turned the staircase railing into a live wire, and when Ace grabbed it, the shock sent him flying backward. He later said that falling backward instead of forward saved his life, claiming he felt angels pushing him away from danger. For 10 minutes, he had no feeling in his hands, yet he finished the entire show. That near-death experience became the inspiration for his hit song Shock Me on the Love Gun album. Throughout his life, Ace claimed to survive 10 separate car accidents, including a nearly fatal crash in the early 80s while driving under the influence. Death kept reaching for him, and somehow he kept slipping away. What made the feud with Gene and Paul even more bitter was the success that Ace achieved, success that seemed to gnaw at them for decades. In 1978, all 4 KISS members released solo albums in the same day in an unprecedented move. Ace's album produced New York Groove, which became the biggest hit out of all 4 releases, climbing to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. Years later, his 2014 album, Space Invader, became the only KISS-related solo album to chart in the top 10. Ace openly stated there was always jealousy from Paul and Gene, saying he used to get the hottest girls and that they tried to derail his solo career multiple times. Gene told Guitar World that Ace had been fired 3 times for drugs, alcohol, and bad behavior. Ace's response was swift. He was never fired. He quit twice because they were control freaks. The success he achieved independently seemed to prove his point, that he never needed them as much as they needed him. Beyond the controversies and conflicts, Ace Frehley fundamentally changed what rock performances could be. He designed the iconic KISS lightning bolt logo, which Paul later polished into its final form. His spaceman persona with silver star makeup drew inspiration from his love of space and science fiction, creating a character that transcended the music itself. But his most revolutionary contribution was the smoking guitar. He installed smoke bombs in the pickup cavity, later upgrading to halogen bulbs that created spectacular visual effects. He built guitars that shot fireworks and rockets, once nearly hitting Gene Simmons during a performance. During one show, a smoke bomb melted his asbestos costume directly to his thigh, leaving a serious burn. These pyrotechnic guitars defined the arena rock spectacle and inspired countless musicians who came after. Before KISS, Ace had been kicked out of 2 high schools and dropped out of a 3rd. He ran with violent street gangs in the Bronx and got slashed in the stomach on his 13th birthday. He even worked as a drum roadie for Jimi Hendrix's final Band of Gypsys performance in 1970. From those rough streets, he built himself into a rock legend. When news of his death broke, the tributes poured in from around the world. He was the first to pass among KISS's 4 founding members, and even Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, despite their years of conflict, called him an essential and irreplaceable rock soldier. Peter Criss wrote that he was shocked and that he loved his friend. Ace had been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2014 alongside his bandmates. After his death, New York Groove surged to number 18 on iTunes as fans rushed to honor his memory. He left behind his daughter Monique and his wife Jeanette, who released a statement saying the magnitude of his passing was of epic proportions. Just a year earlier, he had released his album 10,000 Volts in 2024 and was actively working on Origins Volume 3, a covers album, When the Fall Stopped Everything. From the rough streets of the Bronx to rock immortality, Ace Frehley lived a life that defied every prediction. He survived electrocution that should have stopped his heart. He walked away from 10 car accidents that could have ended him. He battled addiction for decades and emerged victorious, staying sober for 18 years to prove every doubter wrong. He created visual spectacles with smoking guitars and pyrotechnics that changed live performances forever. He achieved solo success that his bandmates couldn't erase, no matter how hard they tried. Yet, in the end, it was a simple fall in his studio that took him away. The spaceman who lit up stages across the world with fire and smoke, who cheated death more times than anyone could count, was brought down by something so ordinary it almost seems impossible. But his groove never left New York, and it never will. That legacy, the one he built with his own hands, despite everything and everyone working against him, remains untouchable.